What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning into the Dope People Show. We have a good one today. I have my boy Rob Tankson in the building. He's a tech entrepreneur, co-founder and COO of PrestoDoctor. What they do is really remarkable. They make sure that patients can access their medicine. It's a critical part of the industry. So today we're going to be talking about his journey as a tech entrepreneur, how they made a deal to sell 51% of their company, and some of the trials and tribulations of what it takes to really be an entrepreneur. And then lastly, we're going to talk about what's going on in the New York market. Lots of things moving, but lots of things kind of stalling. So we're going to talk about what that means for the patients. Excited for this one. Appreciate you guys, and welcome to the Dope People Show.
What up, Revel fam? Peter here, coming to you, Director of Knowledge on the Revel. We always say this, but this is gonna be a good episode. In our pre-meeting, man, Rob was spitting a lot of knowledge, hitting us with a lot of interesting topics. I was over here watching YouTube videos on a lot of different things today. So I'm really excited for this one. You guys are gonna learn a lot. But let's check in with Jacoby. How you doing?
What's good, Peter? I'm blessed, man. I'm good. I'm excited for this. You, you- I tried to mute you as quickly as I could, but I couldn't make it happen.
It
It's
was
all
Lulu
good.
too. Lulu won't be with us, but I'll call her right back.
All good, all good. Yeah, no, this one particularly, I really want to share with our audience because it's about tech entrepreneurship, and some of that's glorified. Some of that shit is really hard if you're a black male. I know from experience, and it did not have nearly as great an outcome as Rob here. So I'm excited to talk about what actually happens and kind of like how you make this thing work. And what I also really like is it's a great opportunity for our communities. If you can't win a license, there's another avenue that you can make money serving the licenses. So, yeah, man, it's gonna be a good one. Let's get him on stage.
Before that too, I want to just
Okay.
premise it with, I mean, we there are a lot of people who used to come to the events, and Rob's story with he just came to New York, he moved here, he showed up to the Revel event. He was telling us yesterday that he came downstairs when we were at Subculture, and he was just like, "Oh, this is a vibe." But we'll let him tell
Hey,
it. Without further ado, Rob.
Hey
what's
guys,
good,
how's it
bro?
going? Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you guys.
Hey, it's our pleasure for sure, man. We've been watching you through the streets in New York for the last like 4 or so years. Just watching you grow Presto Doctor, growing the community, getting access to patients, and it's just been like it's been cool to be a peer in the space in New York, and it's especially great to be able to break it down with you today. So thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. As you mentioned, I've been in New York since late 2018, and coming from so much like cannabis culture in California, you guys really helped kind of bring the culture. Just really seeing that event and subculture was a great welcome to New York cannabis industry. So appreciate the what you guys are doing. I've always been a fan. I've always wanted to be on stage with you guys. So this is such an honor. So thank you.
Well, hopefully it's just the beginning. We got more things to come, and maybe we can get you on stage here soon. Um, all right. So I want to just talk about the beginning of your career and what you did. So you were kind of in corporate America a little bit, right? You were kind of in the tech startup scene. So before you got into cannabis, just talk to me about your career path, where you thought you were headed, what was going on.
So career path, I was just in general, I was always a risk taker. From being the kid that went against his parents and moved from Chicago to California where I knew no one, to working in tech, trying to start companies. Tried to start I had a few failed startups before, and my business partner Kyle and I worked together at a tech startup in SF, and PrestoDoctor was just a great opportunity, and we were able to start it together. So that was in 2015.
All right. So when you were at that startup, what kind of role did you have? What were you doing?
So that startup, at Clearside and also previously at Google, I was an analyst on the marketing team, and kind of before that, I was an analyst on Wall Street. I was kind of doing equity research, basically telling the portfolio managers what to buy, sell, and hold.
All right, and then you, I believe, met your co-founder at Clearsight,
Mhm.
who was probably in a completely different department. So, what was the relationship there, and how did you guys kind of connect?
So Kyle and I connected through one of my friends, David, who's on the marketing team as well. He was a software engineer, and that was Kyle's kind of background and skill set. And I'm not sure if you guys have been around a lot of software engineers, but a lot of them aren't really the most engaging and people's persons. But Kyle was just the opposite. He was very outgoing, very friendly, and so we ended up kind of bonding right away. And I was kind of pitching him an idea. We had a company at the time. I was working with a few lawyers, and the company was the working name originally was Tinder for Tennis, and we would try to connect people to play sports, whether it's one on runs, playing tennis, basketball, whatever. Just it was people can meet to date, but people couldn't really meet to do physical activity, and so wanted to try to change that, but we couldn't find a software engineer, and so it's kind of how Kyle and I originally met, and then with PrestoDoctor, he was kind of working on that before. He was kind of working on Presto Weed before, which is a delivery service. It would have been a competitor to Ease, but once Ease launched and kind of took the thunder, we decided to pivot and go to PrestoDoctor to provide the cards and kind of be the first point of contact for patients.
Got you. Well, I mean, sounds like you guys were ahead of the times because I heard Bumble. I was reading this Bumble BFF is like popping, right? And it's just like
Yeah,
friends through the Bumble network. So I think you
yeah,
guys were onto something. It's just all about timing and fit.
yeah.
Um, you 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 were thinking about this weed company. He was kind of messing around with it. You guys saw that Ease came out. How did you like walk me through the process of pivoting the idea? Because it's probably super early. You probably had a couple lines of code and maybe some concepts. I don't know. I couldn't imagine you were that far. You could have pivoted any direction. How did you make the decision to go to doctors?
Well, it was honestly we saw how much press they were getting. They were on like Jimmy Kimmel Live, like they were literally everywhere, and so we were like, dang, we just just kind of chatted and figured, what was the best way to still serve the patient, but also serve a lot of patients. And at the time, getting a card wasn't really the most professional experience in a lot of cases. Like you go to a doctor and they were typically not everyone. There's some great doctors out there, but a lot of doctors in California at the time are running what we call script mills, where they would kind of get patients in for a set price, and they would just have not a serious evaluation, and they get you out within 10 to 15 minutes. My personal experience, the doctor literally was on a tablet. The nurse handed me a tablet. He was on a beach in Florida, and he told me what was wrong with me. He was like, "You have back pain, right?" The nurse kind of looked at me and winked, and I was like, "Okay, yeah." And the appointment was done, which at the time was kind of funny. But if it was a situation where I wanted someone in my family or myself to have a serious evaluation, that wasn't the place, and so we wanted to really create that.
Got you. Yeah, in my experience, I was in Colorado at the time, and my company, because they want your plant counts if they have a medical license,
Mm.
so they would bus all the employees. They pay for you to get your license. I told the doctor that I tore my ACL like 10 years ago. At this time, I've retorn it since. That's a different topic. But at this point, I was like, "Yeah, my knee aches a little bit." He's like, "All right, cool. Probably 99 plants. That sounds good." I was like, dog, I cannot grow 99 plants. I couldn't smoke 99 plants, but I'll take it.
Yeah, yeah.
So the industry at the time is slowly evolving from is medical, which a lot of people did access it as a medicine, but a lot of the places were kind of just like a gray area for people to get access to high quality flower or good discounts. Your kind of user experience was based off of, it sounds like, your own. But how did you get some of those like early, I don't know if you did like consumer interviews or touch points with patients. How did you like understand what the clunkiness of the process was so that you could improve it?
So that took about, it's just something that we still make improvements to, but the first year and a half, 2 years was really just listening to the patients. Like one of the first things that stood out is because we were the first to do it. People would come on the website and be like, "This is legit. Like I can just talk to a doctor online and order we delivery." It was just like it was too good to be true, right? And so one of the first things we did was we decided to get Trust Pilot, and then we transitioned to Trust Spot. And what it is it's legitimate third party reviews, a third party site that patients can leave reviews on, and so it allows us to post those on our website and kind of advertise those. So when people would come to us and ask those questions, we would say, okay, this is what patients are saying about us. And since then, I think we have I think 16,000 reviews or so, and they're mostly 5 stars because we take the process pretty seriously. Patients say something to us, patient has a question about a doctor, like we really take that seriously, and so it kind of shows in our reviews.
Yo, that's dope, man. That's a lot of reviews. You guys do take that serious. So you guys are both in California at the inception of this, and you're both working your day job still. Is that correct?
So Kyle actually took the leap first. We
Okay.
were working at ClearSide together, and it was a situation where fast growing startups and anywhere, but the NSF at the time, they would do these massive layoffs, and Kyle was safe. He was on the software engineering team, but and he actually ended up quitting before me. I was on a beach in Costa Rica on a vacation, and I got an email. It was like me and 40 other people, like, "Oh, you guys are fired, and by the way, you can stay for another month." And so, of course, the next month we were just kicking it, and that's when Kyle and I kind of came together and decided to start PrestoDoctor together.
All right. So at first it became a hobby, and then it kind of became like, no, we got to do this. I got to eat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So the world, I love the way the universe works. As long as you ride the wave, it'll take you where you need to go. It seems like a negative thing, turns out to be positive in the long term. But you just lost your job. You're in Costa Rica. You decide, all right, I'm gonna take this seriously. You're only in California, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
How many patients would you say that you had at this point?
So only in California, and first couple of days, just like trickles. Our first appointment was from a competitor, a company called Hello MD. We actually launched, we were doing a Twitter pitch at a Twitter building, a cannabis pitch, and they were there, and they were doing just kind of general telemedicine, and so they pivoted afterwards, and our first patient was one of their employees, like, ironically enough, and I was still, once I got fired from ClearSide, I took a role at a furniture company called Restoration Hardware, their corporate office, as an analyst. And it was to a point where I was doing PrestoDoctor full time. It was just Kyle and I, so we would do chat support and we'd switch off. And I was working a full time job there, doing chat support until it got to the point where like I was outside on calls all day and like messaging. I had to quit. So, but it took a few months to get some traffic. We were luckily able to get through Google AdWords because at the time we were the only ones doing it. And the first 6 to 8 months, we were just really killing it. Like anything we put into AdWords, we got 4 or 5x on, which really helped us launch. But then, of course, when competitors came along, they started to report our ads, and then it became like reporting war. And then 6 to 8 months after our launch, it went from like really growing fast to like, whoa, we got thrown off AdWords. How the hell are we going to market this thing? So that was pretty scary at that point.
All right, there's a lot I want to break down. So first, just like Hello MD, if there's anybody I'm slightly interested in how their business works, I'm going through their funnel. I'm putting in my fake information. I got tons of burner emails, and I'm gonna go see like how do they talk about it? What are their marketing emails look like? And I get that. But you guys kind of tapped into some gold before it got. It was like a well before it got shut off, right? Like Google AdWords is how most startups in the last 5-10 years kind of like push their acquisitions through, right? And also maybe like Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Cannabis companies today can't do that, but there's like this little golden moment where you guys could really like take advantage of that. Did you guys have experience doing it? You were an analyst. I imagine you're not doing a ton of like pay to click ads. You have an engineer. I imagine that's not his specialty either. Like, how did you guys learn these marketing techniques, and how did you take advantage of them?
Honestly, it was like, so I worked at Google before, but I didn't touch ads at all. so I was able to call some friends and kind of do some research on it. And Kyle did a ton of research as well. It was honestly a lot of learning, a lot of new, knowledge and trying things and figuring them out. But at the time, because there was no competition, we could just set the click price pretty low, and it was just converting. But like I said, that only lasted about 8 months.
Okay. And the other thing I really want to understand is this balance that we all kind of have to play between like a day job, because the
Mhm,
brother's got to eat,
mhm,
right? But then also like chasing the dream. And it's kind of like this teeter totter. You're trying to find the right line. And I know a lot of people personally that have done it well, or that struggle with it, or that's sitting on the side trying to figure out how I do this. And I want to understand your story a bit. So you're forced into trying to focus on the startup. You're doing that for a little bit, and you're like, this is not going to pay the bills quick enough.
mhm,
So you go find another job. You, in the back of your mind, know it's temporary, but it's the type of job that you can kind of do in parallel, right?
mhm.
Like, was there some strategy choosing the next day job to kind of like subsidize your income?
Um, Honestly, it was my wife at the time. She was working at the company, Restoration Hardware, and so
Okay.
when they reached out, it was kind of like, hey, why not?
Yeah. All right. So
It was
you had to
pretty easy
put
to
in.
do. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So that kind of made the decision easier. And it was the first company that really reached out. And at the time, doing PrestoDoctor, I really didn't feel like going through the whole interview process. And so I kind of took it hoping that it would be temporary. And thankfully, it was.
Okay. All right. So you start getting to a point where Presto Doctor is growing enough that you can justify leaving. Like, all right, we got enough traction. How big? Like, how many patients or revenue? Like, how big was big enough for you to jump ship?
So big enough was about 25 patients. Well, sorry, about 50 patients per day was big enough, and it was before like I knew how to personally handle chat support and phone support in a concise and effective way. I'd be having like 30, 40 minute conversations with patients, which is great, right? But like when you're trying to run a business and trying to like help a lot of people, you really have to learn how to help people and be more efficient with your time. And so
Yeah.
I was having a lot of those conversations outside, and people would be kind of looking at me, and then I ended up kind of sharing with coworkers and my boss what I was doing, and they kind of like honestly they laughed at me. They're like, "Why are you trying to start a weed business?" Like they would just. I was kind of like the joke around the office for a while. So
Interesting. I mean, what about your wife, your family? What do they think about you doing this while you have like I imagine from your background and your career, like you could do one of these pretty stable jobs and be pretty content, make a decent salary and be okay. Like what did your family and the people close to you think about this kind of like risky side hustle?
the person I was most concerned about telling was I guess my mother and my grandmother, telling them to, but they were surprisingly very knowledgeable, very supportive. And considering I grew up in the Midwest in Chicago, where the DARE program was a huge thing, I was very shocked. But my wife at the time, she was supportive. It was definitely difficult at times when I was trying to share the vision, and she didn't really have that same vision. Obviously she had a different vision for us, just kind of working traditional jobs and kind of going through retirement, kind of doing that kind of path. And so when I wanted to quit my stable job and try this thing, she was just like, "Whoa, like what do you like? Are you serious? You
Mm,
guys aren't making enough money to pay yourselves." And so that was a struggle. It was a situation where once I did quit and I didn't have that income, I had to kind of do other things to obviously pay the bills and to keep her happy. Like I took a position as a bouncer at a club, and I did that in college, and so I kind of still kind of had those connections, and so did that for a while. Did like I tried to drive Uber and Lyft, like I was really just hustling where I could to kind of keep the company running without having to sacrifice more and get another job.
got you. Got you. All right. Man, the emotional pressure inside the house while you trying to make the dream work.
It's real.
Um yeah, that's intense. So let me just understand here. So you quit the second job. When were you able to pay yourself?
So we launched the company in the summer of 2015.
Mhm.
We didn't pay ourselves a penny until late 2016. Then we implemented a salary of $50,000 for ourselves. which felt like $1 million.
That
When you go from 0 to 50,000, it feels like he's like just, going crazy.
Yeah, man, I bet. I've been there too. I've been in that struggle. I look back at some of the times when I was trying to grow Jade, and I'm like, bro, how did I live like this? Like ramen every day, just so ingrained in the belief that like I could do this, that like I didn't even like pay attention to my own personal needs. I imagine it had to be like that, except the difference, I didn't have a lady. It was just Jacoby,
It makes it
right?
easier. Yeah.
Eventually I did. She's gonna hear this and be like, "What? We were dating at the end of that?" Right, so technically, yes, at the end. But that emotional strain, when someone else is, you're probably like what, late 20s, early 30s at this time,
Yep.
right? So this is when people are really starting to think about like, what's our future look like? What's our family gonna look like? How security like really matters? Like what's in our 401k, our Roth? Like you really starting to focus on these things. So how were those conversations? Like, was it like, hey, take a chance on me, or was it like, screw it, I gotta go, I gotta do this, or what were
Yeah.
some of the trade offs in that conversation like?
The trade-offs were, it was tough. It was like a situation where, initially it was fine because we had nice savings, and then it got to a point where like, she used to always bring this up to me. She, because I would move money around in certain ways, and I guess once she was trying to buy a sandwich at lunch and her car was declined, and she was so embarrassed, and like she would just,
That'll do it.
that affected her, a lot. She brought that up a lot, and not something I was proud of, but it was like I was really trying to chase this dream, and I really believed in it, and it was like hard, like which understandably, if something like that happens and someone's telling you they have a vision, and they're like pretty deep into it, it's like, all right, well, you need to figure something else out if I can't buy a sandwich, like shit like that. So
Yeah.
it really got down like to the struggle like that to a point. Like, thankfully we were able to pay things, and it wasn't a situation where we're like broke, but it was like really like cars were declining, and it was shit like that going on, man.
That's the realness right there. All right, so you got the 50K salary. I'm sure it feels amazing.
Mhm.
You're starting to grow the company a little bit. When did you start focusing on other states, and how did you prioritize where to go?
So the first state that made sense for us was Nevada. At the time, it
Mm.
was, well, obviously it borders California, which proximity was easy. But at the time, it was a situation where anybody visiting Nevada, you could get a California medical card and purchase,
Oh,
because Nevada
they
was
had
medical only at the
reciprocity.
time. Yep, they had the reciprocity.
Yeah.
And so as long as our doctor was licensed in California to prescribe a California medical card, um, but also licensed in Nevada, because they had to be licensed to see patients that are physically on the ground in Nevada. As long as they had both licenses, they can legally see patients there. And so we were on a scramble to figure out like a dual licensed doctor, which is very difficult somehow. Like it's easy to find one, but then finding one that has experience in cannabis or wants to prescribe cannabis or recommend cannabis, sorry, was a task. And so thankfully we were able to figure that out. And once we did, we were able to grow pretty substantially in Nevada, because patients coming to Vegas at the time, everyone wanted to visit dispensaries. And so we were the first there, and we would just really partner with almost every dispensary at the time before competition came. And that really helped us grow a lot.
And is it the team is just the two of you still at this point?
So at this point, it's myself, Kyle, and we also had an operations manager
Okay.
who's based in California as well. So it was 3 or 4 of us that were in California office at the time.
All right. And did you guys take any outside funding at this point?
No, so we didn't take outside funding at all until late, until mid 2017, when we were partially acquired, a public
Yeah.
company. They bought 51% of us, but before that, we were just bootstrapping it, and just really really trying to grow it that way. But it wasn't for lack of effort. We definitely had pitch decks. We definitely pitched a ton of investors, but it was, at the time, no one really wanted to take that chance, and it was too much, regulation against cannabis, too much uncertainty.
Okay. But I want to get into that partial acquisition and how you got there, but I don't want to miss a critical point of like how you actually built your platform. So you have a engineer in-house on the team. Does he have to get a side job at all, or is he just like 100% focused on building?
He was 100% focused on building, and software engineers in the Bay Area, their salary is pretty damn nice. So
Mm-hmm.
he had he had a nicer nest egg than I did at the time.
Okay. So he's doing everything. He's the type of developer that can handle like soup to nuts, front end, back end,
Mhm.
encryption for all of your HIPAA stuff. Like he could just handle it all.
Yeah, he did. Actually, no, I take it back. He did do kind of some side work. His when his old roommates had a company in the payment space, and so he did some kind of side stuff for him, kind of for extra money.
Okay. And last one on building the product. Just because I know a lot of people that have kind of like visions of an app or some new technology, and they're probably more like yourself, where I don't imagine that you're much of a developer, but you can kind of like understand the vision here. Who's making like the mock-ups and the prototypes and like doing user testing? Are we putting that on the engineering team, or are you doing biz dev and that kind of like product design stuff?
So product design and it was Kyle, and testing. He did most of it, but I did kind of help anything that was kind of going to be customer facing. I definitely helped with that, as
Okay,
far as like
that
helping out, make sure things weren't breaking, because it was just at the time a small team, so we really had to make sure before the company opened online in the morning, things weren't breaking.
all right. So Kyle's like one of a kind.
He
Sounds like
is.
a
He
hard
definitely is.
guy to find. That sounds like
Kyle
a
is one of a
clutch
kind.
ass founder
Yep, he's definitely
for
one of a
sure.
kind.
All right. Okay. So let's go back into the funding here. So you guys are basically self-funded, right? You really like given up a lot of things to make the dream work for 3, 4 years now, or
Mhm,
yeah, but about 3 years, I think, if I'm doing my math right.
mhm,
And you guys ultimately strike a deal with Sativa, I think. Do I
mhm.
get that right? Can
Yeah,
you
yes.
talk to me about like, first of all, how big is the company in terms of people and patients? Like, where are you guys at this
Mhm.
point? And how were you able to find that investor and close that deal?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back a little bit to kind of fill in some
All
important
right.
information that's it's the
Yeah.
realness, because that part is kind of the glory, but there was some struggles before that, and the
Okay.
struggles being that um, in late 2017, I'm sorry, late 2016, we were really struggling. We were just paying ourselves, but we were really kind of struggling. We were growing, but we weren't. And we were growing. We had employees, but Kyle and I weren't able to pay ourselves like a livable salary. So we kind of had an investor that said he would do our entire round.
What were
He
you raising?
We were raising about 5 million, and he
Okay.
was going to fund the whole round. Ex Wall Street guy, and we met him at MJ Bisc. Well, we met him. We've been talking previously. We had a handshake deal to close the deal in MJ BizCon, and the nicest hotel I've ever seen in my life at the Bellagio, and everything looked good, right? And then he just ghosted us, like just from that to ghosting us. And then a month after later, he finally replied, and he let us know what the situation was. He said he wasn't able to invest, and he blamed his partners, which kind of seemed like a lame excuse. And so we
Yeah.
tried to dig in, because my experience with raising money, if you're not going to invest, just at least give me something. Tell me why. Like, give me some kind of knowledge about how I can improve my pitch or something. And he wouldn't give us anything, and so that obviously hurt. We were pretty discouraged. That was in October. That was in the event was in October. He kind of got back to us in late November, and the end of the year, we're like, Kyle and I are having a serious conversation. Like, we should probably shut this down, because this is going to be really hard to raise money. And so, we decided to push for. We had the Emerald Cup in late 2016, and
Wait, hold on. Before you get to Emerald Cup, hold on, because
yeah,
I know this part, but that emotion of like thinking that you're good, right? Like you dapping up your boy, like, yes, we got this. Like, all right, just wait for that check to clear. Send a couple emails and we are back. I'm about to get some real money. I can relax. Your shoulders kind of like lower down a little bit.
mhm.
And then you start to feel the pressure. Like, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? He's not coming through. You get some bullshit. Like that emotional toll right there has to be so deflating.
It's
Like,
wild, man.
like right at the end, oh man. So how talking about that conversation with him about like deciding if you were gonna put it to bed or not, like
Yeah,
that sounds really, really stressful.
it was tough. We had employees in the office at the time, and like I say, Kyle and I went downstairs, and we just had a conversation outside the office door. Like, we were on the 11th floor, and so we went downstairs to the street level, and we were just like, man, like, what are we gonna do? Like, this is close to the end of the year, December 2016. If we're gonna do it, we should probably shut it down before the end of the year, because we'll have to pay taxes on the next year if we don't.
Mm-hmm.
We had a serious conversation, and we decided to just move forward and just see what happens at the Emerald Cup. That was kind of our test, and
All right.
it was a blessing. It worked out.
Whose idea was that? Who was like, let's just try the Emerald Cup?
I was pushing.
Yeah, you were like, I'm not ready to give up yet. Okay. All right. Tell me what happens at the cup.
So at the cup, and again, this is before we're paying ourselves. And at the cup, we made, I think we made like $80,000 in 2 days, and we obviously were able to pay ourselves some after that, after paying the doctors and paying all the other expenses, and that really turned things around for us.
Got a little shot of life right there.
Yeah, just emotionally, just financially, and then from there we had an event in Oakland. It was kind of an investor event, and I think it was a month or two later, and we met the folks from Cannabis Sativa that eventually ended up investing in us. And so that kind of led to, it was momentum from the event to meeting them, to going through the whole due diligence process, which took a few months, to them saying in May that they pretty much wanted to move forward. And then lawyers got involved, and we ended up signing the deal in like late July 2017.
Okay. Relatively small team. I'm assuming you don't have like an in-house general counsel. You might have a lawyer here.
Mm-hmm.
How are you able to evaluate or kind of decide if this was a good deal for you?
So I actually use just kind of my personal knowledge, just working on Wall Street. I used to value companies, startups, and so I kind of knew personally what I thought we were valued at. Obviously, it was higher than what they thought we were valued at. You got to play the game, but
like based on what? Give me like for dummies. What are some of the metrics that like to you led to a good valuation?
So based on the market opportunity, based on the growth in the market, there was so many states that we expand to. Also had to consider the fact that there are going to be some states that were going adult use or recreational, and considering what that is. But it was just so much growth ahead of us. We were only in California and Nevada at the time. And I think at the time there were like 16, 17 states that we could expand the business into. And so it was just so much opportunity there. So just based on like current revenues and projected future revenues, and we kind of threw like a 5 to 10x multiple on earnings to kind of get us to that valuation.
Okay. All right. So you had a little bit of experience like putting this deal together. You get the lawyers involved, you sit down, then what?
I'll get the lawyers involved, sit down. We, go through the whole, due diligence thing. We go through, they're publicly traded, so we have to go through our first ever audit, which, if you're running a company initially, thankfully we were running our books, everything above board, but there's still a lot of things that you have to explain being in the cannabis space. Like, for example, why do you have X amount of dollars, over $10,000 in cash sometimes? Because we would have events, and you can't, obviously, if you deposit over 10,000 in cash to a bank, it's kind of a red flag. And so we would have to like either slowly pay ourselves, pay our doctors in cash, like certain things we had to do. We had to explain to auditors, which normally is like weird or sketchy, but in this space, it's something that makes sense. And so the first 3 or 4 days we're explaining why we did certain things, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, I bet that was intense. All right, audit, due diligence. You signed the deal, no problems?
Yeah, signed the deal pretty much, no problems. One of our one of Kyle's friends actually from home, Jeremy, he was an attorney in San Francisco at the time, and he was like a small stakeholder in the company, and so he definitely helped with the legal aspect. So it kind of worked out having him on the team as well.
Got you. And I actually just recently went through an acquisition myself and learned some things I had no idea. But I know for sure that if they're going to put money in, they have a vision of what you can become. Like probably somewhat married to your vision. Maybe it's a little bit different, but like they're not just throwing money. They have a vision of what you're about to become. Like, how would they explain who they thought you were going to be, and how did that differ from like what you thought you were going to be?
So they thought we're going to be, and still think we're going to be, the largest provider of medical cards, first domestically and then globally.
Mm-hmm.
how that differs for us, at the time and also still, is we see ourselves bigger than just the cannabis space. While there's a lot of patients that we're going to help and we have been helping in the cannabis space, we have this technology platform, this proprietary built in house, that we have this like experience with these patients, and we can kind of scale this and pivot this into so many different industries. So while we want to keep the cannabis company growing, we also see PrestoDoctor doing other ventures, as well, just using our telemedicine platform.
Got you. All right. I like that. I like that. So check clears. How's it feel?
Good. Like like I have a video of me signing like electronically, right? Like, oh, like I'm signing
Uh-huh.
paper. But like it felt good. We signed everything, virtually initially. We had a kind of like a handshake meeting in Vegas. And of course we're in Vegas, so we kind of party a little bit. Our attorney
Mm-hmm.
party a little bit too much the night before, and we literally had to pull him together to go to it was like we were like, bro, like you couldn't like keep it together for like another night, like
Like this is the last stretch, bro.
like literally had to dress him. I'm not joking. He literally had to like go to Ross and
Wow.
give my man some clothes. Like he was like that wild and like, like so.
Cool. And then this I think you were telling me that you had like some salary, like some debates. As soon as the check clears, you got the deal done. How involved were they like in the day to day? How involved are they now? I think you had some HR drama or like some other details. What else was difficult?
So the first couple years with them was pretty smooth. Like we had a market rate salary, which is like very nice, and then we hired a really big team, which ended up being a mistake. We learned through that. Like we got a bunch of money. We hired a big team, and then we expanded to New York, expecting New York just to be as successful as like California and Nevada had been, and unfortunately it wasn't. And one of the hardest things that we had to do professionally and personally was to fire people that we really liked, that we brought on, and
Mm,
that kind of made things like real again. It went from really fun to being like, oh shit, like this shit's real. And so we were able to refocus after that. Kyle and I actually like chose to cut our salaries. Like, well, not chose. We kind of had to kind of save the business again. So it went from like great to like, oh shit, like we're not getting paid again. And so we
mhm.
didn't get paid for another year, like for a year after that, after getting like a nice salary again. And then started paying ourselves again in 2019. The company's publicly traded, so we got paid in stock, which was nice. But then it wasn't a market rate salary.
Yep.
We didn't really like, we had to kind of earn that again, honestly. And we were able to get that again. I think 2020 is when we actually able to really give ourselves an actual market salary again. And then kind of what you mentioned, the negotiations with the public company. We were trying to, once we were doing really well, we were like, all right, well, we want to be compensated like well, like we're doing well. So
Yeah.
that those conversations kind of took a while, and those kind of made things a little bit awkward, but we were able to kind of withstand that and really get it done working together.
Got you. I really like hearing this story because there's like some highlights in the middle here, and there's a lot of lows too. Like you
Mhm.
got to feel the lows if you really want to make this vision come to life. One of my favorite Nipsey Hussle things is he's like, I'm not different than anybody else. I just didn't quit. I went through every emotion. I went through every emotion you could imagine. I just didn't quit,
So
and that's what I really like about this story. So all right, so you finally get market rate, and then the pandemic hits. How did COVID affect your business? Like for consumers, it was popping, but I don't know much about how it was going on for or what was going on for the medical market as much,
mhm.
especially for your business. How did that affect it?
So, initially it's like with everyone, the initial kind of shock was like, oh shit, like what are we gonna do? What's going on? Things slowed down, right? The first few weeks things slowed down, and we're like just kind of like everyone else trying to figure out what's going on. But then once cannabis became deemed an essential like service, um, and then also just people having that anxiety, we started to see our traffic increase significantly. People were at home; they really couldn't visit doctors in person, and so it was almost the only option. And we had launched in Oklahoma at the time, which is like one of the fastest growing markets. And so we, I think we saw like a 400% increase year over year in just March and April. And then from there, we had a pretty intense summer where we went from doing well to like really having to like catch up and hire more doctors and hire more support. So it ended up kind of being a blessing in disguise for us.
Got you. Got you. All right. I'm getting a notice from Peter, which thank God for my team, that I'm running out of time and I have a whole nother topic I want to ask you about. So, Peter, I appreciate you. I see you out there. The last thing I want to get into is New York specifically. So you're telling me you're opening up all these states. You finally have some bandwidth of teammates to focus on New York. You start focusing on New York. New York's medical program, I'm sorry, is poop. It's extremely complex. There's very few people that can actually access it. There's very few that are participating, and it's expensive. So I'm sure that those played an impact on your business. So before the MRTA came along, talk to me about the New York medical market and what that meant for patients and for your business.
So we had so much promise for New York, just really not knowing the intricacies of the industry, not knowing how prevalent the black market was here, coming from California. Because I moved really just because I saw so much opportunity here, and not that it wasn't. It was just so many restrictions on the program. It wasn't flower, which is a big thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It was kind of formulations or ratios as far as the medication goes, which didn't work for a lot of people. It was it was like the access wasn't really there. Like the patients didn't really know about the program because state advertises a lot of programs for Medicare, this and that when bills are passed, but there was nothing done for advertising the cannabis program. And so a lot of people didn't even know it existed, which is like the biggest part, just really letting people know, again, like this is legit, like this is a thing, like so it was a lot of education that went into it.
Okay. And how did that affect like your vision of what the market could become and your business?
It affected it greatly. Like we came in with the big plan, just thinking we just kill it, and our revenue projections. I mean, we hit like honestly like 20 to 30% of those projections, and we had to, like I said, we had to make cuts, and cuts became like one of our favorite employees and support staff, one support person, and then also Kyle and I salary. That was the sacrifice that we made to kind of keep things running.
All right, legislators, if any of you ever listen to our show, the decisions you make have huge impacts on our businesses. Stop playing around. Start listening to us. Okay, so legislators have listened to a couple of us. I know you were on our team here trying to push this forward. We finally got the MRTA pushed through beginning of the year. Dope, exciting. There's a ton of things that we've talked about throughout this, throughout our series about like, you can grow your own plants. You can, we'll have dispensaries pretty soon. There's a lot of very interesting things. You can smoke wherever you're allowed to smoke cigarettes. But I want to just understand from you, how do you think the MRTA and the changes in the industry that are coming are going to affect the patients? I think so many times we overlook the importance of like, there's people that really need this shit day to day, right? There's kids that need this to go to school, to stop seizing and functioning every day. And as someone that uses it mostly for adult use, I can't help but feel like we can't lose sight of how important that is. So I want to just kind of take a little bit of time and understand, how do you think the market changes for medical patients and their use of cannabis in the coming years?
I think New York did, for the medical patient at least. I'll say they definitely did a lot of things right. It's going to be expanded patient access. It's going to be broader range of qualifying conditions. It's going to be a broader range of products like flour and other things are going to come on the market. So that's definitely positive for patients. They're going to be able to participate in home grow, which is huge. It's
That was
saving a
major.
lot of money for patients. Like if you consume a lot for your medical needs, I mean, being able to grow your own is game changer. And so those are some of the positives I definitely highlight.
Got you. In your experience, I'd like to know. I think you've seen this. I think we talked about this off camera. There are most states that have passed medical programs and pass adult use. There's an impact to that market. Have you seen directly seen the impact of when adult use passes and how that changes?
Definitely. Business wise, we see, we've been in California and in Nevada, states that have went, and also in Illinois, states that have went from medical to adult use. And there's usually about, at least in our business, about a 4 to 5 month decline in patient traffic. And then after that, we see patients really starting to come back. And that's for various reasons. Like patients want to talk to a professional more so to understand, like, hey, I'm on these types of opiates. I want to get off of them. They're affecting my quality of life, and I want to use cannabis instead. So they want to talk to doctors about drug interactions. They want to talk about pain management, just to name a few things. But patients really start to come back because they start to see the value in talking to a doctor.
Got you. So it sounds like in the beginning, people go straight to adult use. It's easier to get access to. There's more of those. You talk to your bud tender, and then after a while, either people are coming back or the new people that came straight into adult use are like, "I this is cool, but I need an expert. Like, I don't
Yep.
care what you like to smoke with your homies. Like, I got problems I'm trying to solve. I really want to talk to somebody that's trusted and can make it happen for me."
Yeah, exactly
That-
that. And then you also have the fact that you have significant tax breaks. You're able to purchase larger limits. Some states the THC potency is higher for medical patients. So there's definitely a lot of benefits to being in the program.
Okay, that's interesting because one of the things that I'm a little bit nervous about for New York is the potential of very high taxes, right? So, like, if I'm understanding, most likely the medical is going to be the most expensive,
Hmm.
then adult use, though you can buy in bulk, so it could kind of vary, but generally it's more expensive. Then you have adult use, but like you said, when you first came to New York, like the underground ain't playing. Like they got a system, they have good efficacy in their products. Like they're legit. They got variety. They got lead times. They got like they're on it, right? So if they go with high taxes in New York, medical and adult use, it brings a lot of opportunity for the underground market to thrive. And I'm just wondering, like, once again, how does that affect the patients? Like, is it work? Like, I can go talk to a doctor, but then am I actually going to go buy product from the medical dispensary, or am I going to? And also, if I were to think about the business here, the market, there's probably going to be more adult use operators,
Hmm.
which means that they can drive the prices lower, right? There's going to be little incentive for more companies to come into the medical market. If I think I read somewhere like there's like 10,000 or maybe less than 20,000 medical patients in New York. Like that's not even like a total addressable market that's appealing for an 11th person to be a part of this. Anyways, I'm sorry, I'm rambling,
Oh,
but
no, you're fine.
these are the things I'm trying to think about. Like prices are high. I go talk to a doctor. If I am a medical patient, how do you think that they're going to be purchasing their weed the way that the bill is rolled out today?
There's definitely a lot of obstacles. Patient-wise in New York, it's over 100,000 patients right now
Oh,
in New York. So it is, it's not as big as it should be. I'll give you an example. In the state of Oklahoma, they have a population of about 4 or 5 million people. Sorry, 4 million people, and it's about 250,000 patients that have a medical card. We expected that same kind of growth in New York,
mm-hmm.
but it's a different situation. Um, but while there are going to be difficulties, like there are also patients that get cards kind of as an insurance policy. Like,
Mm,
I have cannabis on me, person of color or whatever. Like if you have a medical card and you're caught with cannabis, whether you buy it on the street, whether you buy it in a dispensary, it looks better to officials. So that's kind of another reason that patients get a card. That is kind of a different reason, but we definitely see that a lot.
it's kind of like a get out of jail free card.
Exactly.
Hopefully,
Exactly.
less risk carrying. Um, all right, so we're basically out of time, Rob. My guy, it's always a pleasure. I always like running into you. Back when we were in the events game, we come in soon though, so hopefully we'll see you in the near future in person. Maybe get you on stage.
Yeah, man. I
Um, yeah, man. My guy Peter has an announcement, so we'll make sure he gets some time. coming up Saturday. Peter, what's happening on Saturday? And you got no audio.
In the meantime, while he does that,
I came with a
also
lot of
say that
energy.
we're going to be doing real quick. We're going to be doing a 10% off for anyone that wants to get their medical card. Promo code is going to be Rebel. So promo code Rebel for 10% off on PrestoDoctor. It's going to be. We'll keep that good until the end of August.
All right, bet. We'll put that in the link below. I'm excited about. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. If you're looking to get your medical card, we got the promo code for you. You heard it here first. All right, Peter, give him a quick announcement, and I got one more question for Rob.
Summer sessions, part 3, August, the final, el último summer session. Come hang out with us in Bryant Park, 2 to 5 on Saturday. Anybody in New York, in the tri-state area, come hang out, network. We got legacy operators, we got ancillary businesses, we got all sorts of people in the cannabis industry. Come figure out how things are evolving and network and just catch some vibes. So we'll see you there.
Catch the vibes. Yeah, so we got it posted on Eventbrite and on Meetup. We'll put the link below here as well, so you can go join. All right, thank you, Peter. Last question for you, Rob. What do you have planned on the horizon? What you guys working on?
So right now, something really exciting that we're working on, and we feel just as strongly as we did, in the cannabis space, is we're looking to get involved in the psychedelic space. So I can't say too much right now, but it's something we're passionate about, and I think it has a lot of opportunity to really heal the masses. Like I think plant medicine and psychedelics really have the opportunity to help patients with depression, anxiety, and just spiritual journey. Just name a few, but I think it's a lot of opportunity for sure. So won't say too much, but I'm excited about it.
All right, sympathetic crowd out of the 3 of us at the Revel Squad. I wish one of us wasn't so into the value of psychedelics, but we are all complete advocates of that space. I said that was my last question, but I have one final question for you. Where can the people find you? Give us all your information.
Sure. So company website is PrestoDoctor.com. We are at PrestoDoctor everywhere besides Instagram. We're PrestoDoctor_official because we got kicked off. And
they got you.
Personally, I'm at Rob2CHI, like Chicago, on mostly every platform.
All right, my guy. Like I said, man, such an honor to have you on here. You are so knowledgeable. Even though I hadn't seen you in person in over a year, I see you just killing it on Clubhouse, just dropping game to the masses. Appreciate everything you're doing and your candor, telling us about the good and the bad of being a startup founder. So, man, once again, thank you for being on here. Look forward to all the things you have coming up in the future.
All right, thanks so much, Kobe. Thank you so much. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Lulu. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Much love. All right, to our audience, YouTube, podcast, we love you guys. Thank you for supporting us, and thanks for rocking with us. Peace.
Peace out.